Riccardi Barbieri was in second position. It was then Gracie Alvin in third. We look at the back of the peloton in number 56, the Australian road champion. That's Sarah Gigante. She was caught out of position at that intermediate sprint as the Mitchelton Scott team came to the front and really upped the ante. Sarah Gigante found herself off the back and having to chase for a few laps.
Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it, how different just coming off winning the national championships on one of the hardest circuits to being off the back, and she's had to do a lot of work already in this race just to get back to the peloton. And I'm sure she was probably thinking, I'll just get through today's stage and have a go in the hills tomorrow, but she's had to work extremely hard just to get contact with the back of the group again.
So even if she doesn't lose any time today on the favourites, she will pay the price tomorrow. And this, as an 18-year-old, is part of that learning experience. Here comes Ruth Winder, the 25-year-old American from Czech Segafredo. She launched the textbook move, Rochelle. As soon as they finished the first of the intermediate sprints, off she went.
Well, it was a fantastic move, actually, because it puts so much pressure on the Mitchelton Scott team, because they're here in strength and numbers and really want to win this tour overall. They also want to have a go today, possibly with Gracie Alvin. But this means that the teams back in the peloton will be looking at each other, and who will it be that does the work? I think in the end Mitchelton Scott will need to take on a lot of the work just to put themselves back in contention of winning this tour, because Ruth Winder can climb very well, so she's definitely a threat to the two-day series.
Well, she was one of my picks to win the race. I'm not sure whether this is the right move tactically to win the race overall or not. But last year, when Brodie Chapman attacked on the opening road stage, it looked as if that was a really early attention-grabbing move because it was so far from home. She ended up holding off the world's #1 ranked cyclist Annemiek van Vleuten, and it was the winning move. So this could be the right moment.
I mean, it shouldn't be, should it, Matt? But it could actually be. So in the case of Trek Segafredo, they've got some other strong riders as well, especially Elisa Longo-Borghini, who will be waiting for tomorrow's climbing stage. But this move just puts the pressure on the other teams to have to do a lot of work, and if Ruth Winder can stay away for the stage win, then she's a very good chance of winning the tour.
Yeah, tactically it is brilliant, because in addition to Longo-Borghini, who I have earmarked as the favourite from that team, she's proven that, and she's been a winner at the Strada Bianca, so she'll enjoy the gravel roads that we have tomorrow. They've got one of the favourites for the stage today, the Finnish national champion, Lotta Lepisto, who's already had some success in Victoria in particular, and on a motor racing circuit when she went out the winner around Albert Park in Towards Zero Race Melbourne last Thursday. So this is a team with so many cards to play, and putting Ruth out in front early, it shows they've got plenty of ambition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest change that I've seen in women's cycling over the past 10 years, is that it doesn't really matter how strong you are as an individual. You really do need to have strength in numbers. It gives you so many more opportunities. We see now Mitchelton Scott taking up the chase, realising this could be a bit of a threat, and it's going to take a lot of hard work to bring that back.
This is Jessica Allen now, who finds herself on the front. The young Western Australian, she's one of the great workhorses for the Mitchelton Scott team. She won't be surprised that she's been called to the front to do the pacemaking. The advantage now for Ruth Winder is out over the 2-minute mark. That's a handy lead.
It is a handy lead. It'll be difficult to bring back. We would expect that it will come back together for the sprint. We haven't seen the LA Cipollini team up there. They've got one of the fastest sprinters in the world in Chloe Hosking. So she's hungry for a win today, and she'll make sure that she gets everything out of her teammates to try and bring this back for a sprint.
Number 56, Sarah Gigante. I feel like we've been talking about her a lot this summer, and for good reason. The win that she collected around Mount Buninyong when she defied the odds as a rider straight up out of the under-19s to beat none other than Amanda Spratt and Sarah Roy in the minor placings. And Amanda Spratt, having finished last season, ranked number 3 in the world and with a silver medal from the World Championships. Amanda Spratt, she's had a very good summer. Second at the National Championships. She then won the Tour Down Under for the 3rd year running. She was 3rd on the weekend in the Deakin University Ket 11's Great Ocean Road Race. Be a nice way for her to finish the summer campaign with another victory here.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Amanda Spratt before the start, she did say that it's been a huge summer. She's had some great results. Winning the Tour Down Under, I think, to have that win already under your belt before you go to Europe is also fantastic. Maybe a little bit of disappointment with the result at the National Championships, but she's got bigger fish to fry over in Europe this year. She's got big ambitions, a lot more confidence than, say, 1 year ago with her fantastic results last year. So I think she's pretty laid back about today. I think she's happy to play a support role also. They've got Lucy Kennedy, who's got a great chance tomorrow. They've been over and looked at the gravel climb for tomorrow, and they're feeling quite confident in Lucy's ability. So I think Amanda Spratt's quite relaxed about this tour.
I liked the approach of Amanda on Saturday in the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road race, in that once the wind was gone, Alina Sierra off the front on her own, winning the race for Astana. She decided, well, Lucy, you've done a lot of work for me throughout the race. No point me sprinting you for second just to get that one step closer. You take second. I'm not going to challenge. I'll sit here in third.
Yeah, absolutely what I expected coming into the finish as well, that Amanda Spratt would let Lucy Kennedy roll over the line in second place. Spratty's got quite a really good kick on her. She comes from a BMX background, so she is quite an explosive rider, and that's what we would have expected to see. And then there was a moment that came into my thought that pro teams are always chasing points to better their rankings and things like that, and often they just take the rankings of the top ranked riders in your team. So it occurred to me that maybe the team will instruct Amanda Spratt to take the points for second. A lot of points on offer there at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. So there's so many things that comes into consideration, but definitely showing some great sportsmanship from Amanda Spratt and really what we expected. So they rolled over the line, Lucy Kennedy second and Amanda Spratt third.
Well, Ruth Winder, who's out in front on her own at the moment. In that race on the weekend, she finished in 9th position. Prior to that, at the Santos Women's Tour Down Under this year, she finished in 10th place. So she's had a pretty good start to the season and has adapted quickly to the warm weather. Some of the riders that you referred to, particularly those from the northern part of Europe, the turnaround in temperature that they've had to deal with. Ruth Winder, who we're watching now, her teammate, the Finnish national champion, Lotta Lepisto, she has gone from Finland -20 to temperatures of 40 plus degrees in Adelaide and in Melbourne. A 60-degree turnaround. How does the body cope?
Well, she obviously coped quite well with it, coming up with a win there in Albert Park. So I think one of the advantages for Lotta Lepisto in a criterium-style circuit race is that she's got the strength of Loretta Hansen, the Australian, who is as fast as any sprinter in the world, in fact. So to have that person as a lead-out really helps a rider like Lotta Lepisto. So today, if it comes down to a bunch sprint, Trek Segafredo have got strength in Elisa Longo Borghini, and if Ruth Winder's back there and got anything left to give to the lead-out, they've got Loretta Hansen to do the last lead-out for Lotta Lepisto. So a really strong all-round team for Ruth Winder's team. That's Ruth Winder out in front there.
10 laps remaining for Ruth Winder, so a little over 44 kilometres still to go in this race. So we're just under the halfway mark. The 25-year-old American is showing no signs of fatiguing at this point. She had a good season last year with a stage victory in the Women's Giro d'Italia, 10th place at the World Championships, so she does like the hills. And she's showing no signs of faltering. She's moving along really smoothly. Meanwhile, down at the back of the peloton, number 73 that you can see from the Specialised Women's team, that's Ella Blore. She's one that likes the climbs much more so than a circuit like this. But Ella Blore, along with a lot of the women in this race, particularly the Victorians, they'll have ridden on this course a few times. And this is probably the stillest conditions that they've ever experienced here. Michelle, normally, a still day anywhere else is still windy at Phillip Island. But well, today, not the case.
Yeah, it's not so windy here, but you could still see riders trying to protect themselves on the left of the screen there, on the left side of the road. So a lot of riders would have had a few laps out here before the start, but the directors will be letting them know just when to protect themselves and where to be on each part of the circuit. And it really does, I mean, even if there is no wind, your positioning in a race like this that's at high pace, it's really important. So you can see some riders still trying to stick to the left there and cover themselves out of the wind.
Plenty of the riders in the pinkish blue colours of the Sydney Uni Staminate team, they're generally got themselves down towards the back. Gina Ricciardo, number 96, is one of them. 92, this is Jennifer Darmody, down towards the rear end of the peloton. It's a dangerous spot to be when you have the world's #1 ranked female team, Mitchelton Scott, sitting at the front. And the Australian road champion, the 18-year-old Sarah Gigante, is living dangerously at the back. Absolutely.
You can see that she's really struggling with positioning. She really does need to move up and get into the top 10 or 20 riders there. She's been yo-yoing off the back and just having to work really hard, which is going to make it difficult for her tomorrow in the hills, where we should normally see her strengths come into play. So that's Sarah Gigante from the Cortamenta Australian national team down the back. And there's Chloe Hosking just having a chat with her teammates. She seems quite confident and she's happy with how everything's going so far. So no panic there yet from the LA Cipollini team.
She looks really relaxed. That was at Van de Glet that she was having the chat to, the big Dutch woman on that team. Really important rider from that squad is another one of the powerfully built riders, more known as a sprinter, is Romy Kasper. She's been crucial to the performances of Chloe Hosking so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Chloe will have those riders in the team that she really does rely on, but they'll have a lot of confidence in Chloe as well. They know that her form's good this summer and that she really wants to win today, so they know they've got a big job ahead of them to catch this rider, Ruth Winder. And it'll be interesting to see if they share the work equally with the Mitchells and Scott team. They're the two big teams you could expect to be sharing the chasing. And they'll have to start quite soon. I mean, it's still a fair distance to go, around 40 kilometres.
This is Jennifer Darmody, who has just been popped off the back of the peloton. There is a little bit of wind, not a lot by comparison to what we're accustomed to here at Phillip Island, but evidence again, Rochelle, as you can see them hugging the right-hand side of the road. There's a bit for the lead team to be able to work with to put the rest of the peloton under some serious pressure.
Yeah, and you see some of the riders at the back there are not moving out to the left and going up in the wind. They're just trying to protect themselves on the right side of the road. So there's a little bit of wind out there.
Ruth Winder, last time through, she still holds on to an advantage of more than 2.5 minutes. So with Jessica Allen going to the front, it has reduced her advantage ever so slightly. The maximum lead for Ruth Winder, 2 minutes and 45 seconds. She's also been a stage winner and finished in the top 3 in the general classification in the Tour of Belgium, so she can deal with flat, windy conditions. You don't get to the front by pure fluke in a race like that.
Yeah, no, she's definitely an all-round rider, so she'll be quite confident and happy that she's out there and she's committed now, so she'll be pacing herself a little bit. She'll know that the pace will pick up closer to the finish and she'll have to have a little bit of power left in the legs to try and hold that, because the longer she can stay out there, the more pressure it puts on the other teams to have to work hard. And they're not only thinking about today, but also tomorrow. So this is really playing to the advantage of all the Trek Segafredo teammates.
The Kiwi team, there's lots of young promising riders in this Kiwi team, and all but 2 of the 7 riders on that squad eligible for the best young rider classification. All but 2 of the 6, I should say. Tough work for Ruth Winder. She would have dearly liked somebody to have been out there with her.
Yeah, she's such a strong rider that another rider out there probably would have suffered to stay out as long as she's been out there already and all the way to the finish. It takes a very strong rider to be able to do what she's doing with such a classy field behind.
And it's not exactly pancake flat. You can see the rollers. One of the women in this race who rides for the Cortamenta real estate team of number 56, Sarah Gigante at the back, is Emily Roper. Emily Roper is certainly one of the favourites to at least finish inside the top 5 overall in this race. She's got some of the inside knowledge on this course, courtesy of her boyfriend, Troy Herfoss, who's a 3-time Australian Superbike champion, and he's top speed on the motorbike on this circuit, 312 kilometres per hour.
Wow, it's fast. And he was here only yesterday testing on the motorbike, and he's back here today supporting Emily Roper, and she's actually had some good results on this circuit as well. So she knows all the inside information, mainly about the wind and which way the wind's coming from, but just that association, I think, with the course and the circuit boosts the morale before a big race like this. So she doesn't have to deal with where to be on the circuit. She knows it really well. And her form has been increasing over the last year and definitely one of the favourites for a good result today and tomorrow.
She was really good in the junior ranks. She was Australian under-19 champion, under-23 in the time trial and in the road race, off in the wilderness for around about 18 months. And a big part that has got her back on track is, although the boyfriend Troy Herfoss is renowned as one of Australia's best motorbike riders, he loves riding a push bike as much as he does riding the motorbike. So those two training together have really encouraged each other. Ruth Winder charging through with the spectators that are here at Phillip Island, giving her plenty of support from the side of the road. She is making the race.
Well, you can see she's starting to dig deep now, so it's a long way. She can't afford to blow up, because if the main peloton happened to catch this rider, Ruth Winder, without having to put too much of an effort in, then the whole effort's been wasted. So she really needs to stay out there for as long as possible. That'll put pressure on the team of LA Cipollini, who have Chloe Hosking, and also Mitchelton Scott, who have quite a few cards to play as well.
Well, for the Mitchelton Scott team, at the moment, they are riding smartly in that they're just using Jessica Allen to do the pacemaking. She won a junior world title in the individual time trial in 2011 in Copenhagen. It took her a couple of years to make the transition, then up to the senior ranks. But she's certainly making an impact now. She's playing a really important team role.
Yeah, the teams, they need to have someone like Jessica Allen who can just hold that pace for a long time and bring it down gradually without, I mean, the thing is, if they brought it down too quick now, they just have counterattacks going everywhere, and they really want to keep today controlled. So their big climber legs like Lucy Kennedy and Amanda Spratt, they can just save themselves a little bit for tomorrow, and also for a lead out at the finish, possibly for Gracie Alvin.
The light blue colours that you can see at the back, this is the KOM Financial Advice team. A team that for them, they're racing against a level of rider that they don't often get a chance to race against. So today could be a good opportunity for them to learn a lot. But to learn a lot, you need to move further up towards the front. As we've seen the Japanese national champion now, Yona Mina, come through to the front for the LA Cipollini team. This is significant, Rochelle, because she's one of the teammates of the stage favourite, Chloe Hosking.
Well, you can see now that LA Cipollini have all got themselves together. They're just perched, apart from Eri Yonomini, they're just perched behind the Mitchelton Scott team. So they know that they have to share the work, and they're maybe thinking if they put one rider on the front there with Jessica Allen from Mitchelton Scott, they'll be sharing the workload, and I think they're happy to do that.
Number 84 at the back of the peloton, that's Nicola McDonald, who rides for the Gusto Step Forward KOM powered by Suzuki team, which takes the title for the longest name in the peloton.
Well,
the KOM Financial Advice Group, they are supporting two women's teams. They are part sponsors of that team that I just referred to, the Gusto Step Forward team, and the major sponsor of the KOM Financial Advice Racing team. So that's great support for women's cycling.
Yeah, the UCI have extended the naming rights to three main sponsors of teams now. So it used to be that you could just have two main sponsors in the naming rights of the team, but now you can have three, which makes a bit of a mouthful for us doing the commentary. But it does allow to bring extra funds into the team and sell that extra naming rights spot. So Trek Segafredo and Ruth Winder having a really strong ride, but she'll have some tired legs tonight, that's for sure, and she'll want to back it up on a course more suited to her tomorrow.
Look, again, the body language is showing no signs of fatigue. It looks no different than the first lap that she broke away off the front. And she's causing a lot of problems at the back here. Now with the change, with LA Cipollini coming to the front of the peloton, we can see this group really starting to feel the pressure down towards the back. And I think number 56, Sarah Gigante, if she stays here for too much longer, will find herself in trouble.
Yeah, she's got a lot of experience to gain, Sarah Gigante. She's proven she's one of the strongest, or the strongest rider in Australia this summer, winning the national championships in fine form. But riding at the front of the peloton will be a little bit easier than the way she's done it today, because she's been on and off the back the entire race. She's had to work extremely hard. So this is the moment where she should sprint up to the front, use all of her energy right around the outside and get into a position in the top 20. That would really help her, because just here, as it keeps stringing out, she's going to be on and off the back and working quite hard.
This is an element that even Brodie Chapman, who won this race overall last year, and Lucy Kennedy, who was second on the weekend at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, they've spoken about as not so much the cornering, but actually riding in the peloton was the thing that they had to work the hardest on. And for Brodie Chapman, she was a former mountain biker, not cross-country, downhill mountain biker. So her skills on the bike were very good, but riding in the peloton is a completely different skill. And the Mitchelton Scott team, they've been doing a lot of work with Lucy Kennedy on that facet of her riding. Sarah Gigante needs to do that same sort of work, but what she does have on her side, Rochelle, is time, and lots of it.
Absolutely, but one of the hardest things with learning is trying something new and different. So to actually put that effort in to move up to the front, it takes a lot of courage to actually give it a go, because even though it's hard down the back, on and off the back, you don't know the feeling of actually getting up there until you give it a go. So it's the same with riding an echelon or riding in crosswinds. There were so many years, well, nearly until the end of my career, that I really wanted to sit on the back of that echelon on the gutter, and I didn't realise until you have the courage to have a go that it's actually easier to swap through turns. So it's just about having the courage to do something different that you've not, really trained yourself to do.
It's that old saying of going outside your comfort zone, then all of a sudden your comfort zone gets bigger.
Yeah, true, very true.
Ruth Winder riding strongly. The advantage is starting to be reduced. It's coming back down towards the 2-minute mark. This time through, she'll get the bell lap for the second of the intermediate sprint. So we're down to 8 laps to go. The finish of that intermediate sprint was obviously 7 laps to go. So still a fair way before she gets there, with each lap being 4.4 kilometres. A race of just short of 100 Ks, and there's a real need to eat and drink plenty on a day like this.
Well, for Ruth Winder, if she can pick up some bonus seconds in the intermediate sprint, that will really put Trek Segafredo in a strong position tomorrow as well, because it'll be Mitchelton Scott on the back foot if Ruth Winder can finish in this peloton today with a few time bonuses. So those time bonuses are very important.
Well, she'll come through to get the bell to indicate the points and the time bonuses up for grabs the next time through. At the first intermediate sprint, it was Chloe Hosking from LA Cipollini who took maximum points, ahead of Raquel Barbiera from B Pink, and then it was Gracie Elvin who went across the finish line in 3rd position.
She is absolutely landing in the same splits almost every lap.
Still no change in the body language though. She
No.
looks smooth.
Got a great pedaling style. Her cadence is still great, so she's still looking strong. And I think she is one of those riders that can ride strong all the way to the finish. She's got a very big endurance fitness base. Super strong rider.
And with all of that experience that you speak of, you get the impression that this won't hurt her too much and she'll back up okay tomorrow.
Yeah, I really think that she will. I think that with all of the base kilometres that she's got, that she's ready for this, and that she knows that it could even be that she needs a good hit out today before tomorrow. So I don't think she'll feel it too much. She'll recover overnight. Just getting a time check there and some instructions from her team car.
The Lexus is on its way up. That's Ina Tutenberger is the sports director from that squad. Someone that you've raced against a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in Geelong each year, we would battle it out. So I've had a lot of head-to-head sprints with Ina. But apart from being possibly the world's best ever sprinter, she's got a very cool head on her, and she understands athletes and can work with the different personalities in the team and bring them together. And we can see that with the Trek Segafredo team. They've only been together this summer. It's their first season. And the riders really do have faith in the team tactics and the plan and commit to it 100%. And I think she's a great leader, and I think that's going to be one of the reasons that they'll be hugely successful.
Main peloton now going through to receive the bell, and they find themselves at 1 minute and 35 seconds behind Ruth Winder. So huge impact since we've seen the arrival of Iri Yonamina, the Japanese national champion, from LA Cipollini doing the chasing. This is at the back of the race, and this is out of the race. This is Hannah Bartram, one of the New Zealanders from the Mike Gear Homes women's team.
Just a little bit of a lull in the peloton at the moment. Probably the train up the front and the riders just trying to work out who's going to take on. Looks a little bit painful there.
Looks like this might be a pre-existing injury with the shoe coming out of the foot. There's no signs of her having actually crashed. There's certainly no footage of it. But that makes for a short day.
Also disappointing she won't be able to start tomorrow unless she was to finish today within the time limit.
It definitely looks like a pre-existing injury based on that limp across the road. And taking the foot out of the shoe as opposed to taking the shoe out of the cleats first and then taking the shoe off. Meanwhile, that's of no consequence to Ruth Winder. It doesn't change the impact that she's having on the race. She's still riding solo, heading towards the points potentially for this second intermediate sprint. this will be new for the mechanic.
Yeah, it's actually something that reminds me of an incident I've had in the past with a shoe and having to, I think it was a pedal coming loose and came off the crank and was stuck to the bottom of my shoe. So the mechanics couldn't get the pedal off unless I took the shoe off, and of course the peloton's riding away and it was snowing. It was in a early season World Cup in Italy, so that might be the end of her race. I think very difficult to get back and finish this race in the time limit.
And fair to say you didn't enjoy that experience.
No, it was a little bit frustrating. It happened in the neutral of the race, so obviously a long travel over from Australia and then to have your pedal fall off in the neutral. But, it comes down to the athletes needing to have a good... Because it was snowing, we weren't out there warming up, obviously, and in Europe we do get lazy sometimes and just jump on the bike without a warm-up, but that's what you pay, the price you pay for that.
Good to see Hannah Bartram of New Zealand for the Mike Gear Homes women's team. She is back out on the road. She needs to finish today within the time limit to be able to start again tomorrow. She can lose a couple of laps on the peloton, but she just needs to get to the finish line. Meanwhile, down the back of the peloton, this is Emma Coral-Roberts riding for the KOM Financial Advice racing team. And again, number 56, Sarah Gigante, sitting down towards the back in the colours of the Australian national team for Quartamenta Real Estate. She's not getting protected by any of her teammates. I think they're figuring, let's stay up towards the front. We'll look after our sprinter, Ruby Roseman Ganna, also our key climber, Emily Roper. And Sarah will be able to take care of herself, and at the very least, a good learning experience for her.
So as we get closer to the front of the peloton now, it is the Mitchelton Scott team. That could be Georgia Williams of New Zealand. And Gracie Elvin just coming up for a chat.
That's number 12, Gracie Elvin. So she showed herself in the first intermediate sprint, Michelle. She finished in third position. She wants some points this time around again. And they're the white colours, number 51. That's Emily Roper from the Quartamenta Real Estate team. Making sure she stays up the front, she stays out of trouble. She's riding good position, particularly as a non-sprinter.
She's got a fantastic pedalling style as well, Emily Roper, and she does float around the peloton quite easily. So sometimes it comes naturally to some riders and not so much to others.
Number 36, Ruth Winder, still off the front on her own, holding on to an advantage of just on 1 minute and 30 seconds. When she comes through the finish line, it will be 7 laps remaining. 4.4 kilometres per lap. The head's starting to bob around just a little bit more because she knows the chase is on coming up to this intermediate sprint. She doesn't want to have been out there between the two sprints and have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and it'll often be after the sprint where she'll pull out a little bit more time. It'll come back in until the sprint.
So she's just about to come through to collect a 3-second time bonus in the race for the general classification. 3 points in the battle for the Gatorade sprint classification. And now for Ruth Winder, as you've made reference to, Rochelle, she needs to stay hard on it at the moment and then hope that after the peloton sprint, yes, they'll close it down throughout the sprint, but then they'll back off and they'll resettle and have to work out what they're doing with the chase once again.
Well, I think this is a very significant time for the Herald Sun Tour this year in 2019 because this could be the winning moment for the tour because Ruth Winder has just taken time bonuses for the sprint and that could make all the difference. If she's able to finish with the peloton today, if they catch her and she can stay with them, she can climb really well. So it's a very significant point, I think, in the tour.
A 2-day race tomorrow. It's just short of 100 kilometres once again around Churchill, and there is a big climb to deal with. This is now Grace Brown doing the lead out. It is Gracie Elvin who then comes over the top to collect a 2-second time bonus on top of the 1-second time bonus she got at the previous sprints. And then significantly with Brown going across in second there, that's third. There was no more time bonuses left for the peloton. So that's a good move by Gracie Elvin. And the splits in the peloton as a few trying to take a bite to eat just in the middle of the intermediate sprint.
We're back with Ruth Winder here. As we said, after this intermediate sprint now, the peloton will probably just ease up a little bit, and this is where she's going to dig deep and try to take that time gap out a little bit. So with a lot of experience, she would have had the The instructions from Ina Yoko Teutenberg, her director, back in the car. After the sprint, that's when you need to start giving it a little bit of a push. And she just has a look over her shoulder there to see if she can see the peloton.
It's always a sign that the fatigue is building once you start looking across the shoulder, no matter who you are or where you're racing. It can be in a local club race, it can be at the World Championships. The look over the shoulder is, this is starting to hurt. And she doesn't need to look over the shoulder, she can just look across to the left. That's one of the advantages for the chasing group, and a disadvantage for the sole leader is you are never out of sight on this circuit.
Well, at this level, they're told by their directors when they're in pain, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have the power there, and just block out the pain and keep pushing. She'll have her power output there on the handlebars as well. She'll know exactly what she's capable of, how long she can hold it, and what the team expects of her. Because there is a lot of pressure on her now to be able to hold this break for as long as she possibly can. It'll put pressure on the other teams to work hard to bring it back, and it'll also save the legs of Elisa Longo-Borghini, who has a great chance to win this tour, and their sprinters of the day, Loretta Hansen and Lotte Lepisto.
I'm anticipating that she will be caught by the end of the stage. And if she is, do you still classify it as a successful move?
Absolutely, a really successful move, no matter what happens now, because they have put pressure on the other teams, taken pressure off themselves, so the other riders from the Trek Segafredo team can just relax in the peloton, and taking those time bonuses as well helps out with tomorrow if it comes down to a close finish with some of the stronger climbers. She's got a couple of seconds time bonus there. And a very successful move now, no matter what happens. But the longer she can stay away and the more pressure she can put on the other teams to have to work and to use up their energy before tomorrow, a very good move.
And it has been a great start to the existence of the Trek Segafredo women's team. The men's team has been around for a while, the women's team just starting this year. And as we mentioned earlier on, they're off to a very impressive start, not just in terms of the result sheet, but in particular the cohesion, which tells the story that the results will come throughout the rest of the year.
Well, it was a dream come true, Maddie. The first race that they lined up at, the first stage of the Tour Down Under, and they won. It must have been a huge satisfaction and relief for all the management, the staff and the riders to have a win under their belt right from the start and to set a standard and say, hey, we're here. You know, it could have taken them a long time to find their feet, but to come out and win the first race really does set up the season. It's like the pressure of proving yourself is out of the way, and now let's just get down to the racing.
Yeah, I imagine there was a big sigh of relief on the management side of things.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about all of the signings that they've had, some really, really big signings. It's unusual for a team to come in their first year and have so many strong riders signed up. I think it was a big advantage that they already had an established men's team, so they're not going into something that's completely new. But when you see a women's team usually put together before a season, they're not able to get a lot of strong riders because it's a bit unknown and they have to build up to that. But the Trek Segafredo team had signed a lot of big riders, so to come out and win the first race of the season at Tour Down Under was a fantastic dream result for them.
This is the hardest part of the course now for Ruth Winder. It's also where the soigneurs are placed to give out biddens, and now she's just over the crest and back down the other side. The fact that Trek Segafredo's been around for a long time with a men's squad, and they've got a world-class men's squad, I'm sure that would have given a lot of the women confidence joining that team, even before hearing who the other riders were that were on the team.
Well, I think, yeah, that for sure gave them a lot of confidence, and the early announcement of Ina Yoko Teutenberg being the director also would have encouraged a lot of women to want to ride under her guidance and know that she knows how to win bike races. And she's not only just proven as a rider, but she has DS'd for American teams, and she's been around the scene. She has stayed in touch with women's cycling, so I think that was an attractive aspect of the team as well for big riders to go there and sign. So the confidence of having the men's team already being quite successful, and then having good directors. Giorgia Bronzini's also joined the team as a director. So they really have got a few things right along the way, and then that first win at Tour Down Under.
And Giorgia Bronzini, she's got biker IQ through the roof. You've worked with her a lot. Take the power aside, because physically she was a brilliant athlete. Just her intellect as a bike racer.
That, and in addition to that, her ability to pull a team together and to lift the morale of riders was just incredible. You can't imagine the power that she has to bring a low morale to a high morale and to bring everyone together determined to reach the same goal and to achieve a race win. It was just it's incredible to witness and to be on the inside of seeing what Giorgia Bronzini is capable of doing with the team of riders.
Down to 6 laps remaining for our sole leader, Ruth Winder. We just caught a glimpse of the front of the peloton. Still the LA Cipollini team, along with Mitchelton Scott, trying to spoil the day for the American. 6 laps remaining for Ruth Winder. Last time through, her advantage was around the 1 minute and 35 second mark.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to get that new time check. You can see now she's starting to rock and roll a little bit, and a bit of a grimace on her face, so it's starting to really, really hurt, and still a long way to go.
Yeah, this is the most we've seen her shoulders roll from side to side. This is now Georgia Williams, the Kiwi, on the front. Brilliant time trialist herself, Georgia Williams. So that's bad news for the sole leader. It's then Jessica Allen in second position for the Mitchelton Scott team, and a few riders from B Pink coming up towards the front to do some chasing for Raquel Barbiera. The B Pink team, they were so impressive on the weekend at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. They were super aggressive.
Well, Raquel Barbieri has really shown her speed this year as well. She was formerly riding for the Wiggle High Five team, where she was a domestique and a lead-out rider. Very fast. She's won the World Championship scratch race, and now she has the opportunity in a team to be the lead sprinter. And she's been on the podium already a couple of times this summer in Australia. And we saw the first intermediate sprint, she was second. So she's got the speed there, and she will have the team completely behind her. We also saw an earlier shot just now that the LA Cipollini team with Chloe Hosking are looking very, very confident and relaxed.
And so they should, with Chloe Hosking, one of the world's fastest sprinters, if not the fastest sprinter on the road in women's cycling. The advantage now for Ruth Winder, it is back underneath that 1 minute mark. So her chances of winning solo appear to be doomed at this point. Georgia Whitehouse in there in the colours of the Quartamenta real estate team, the Australian national team. Charlotte Lucas up towards the back for the Tipco squad. A good team, Tipco. They've got the defending champion Brodie Chapman, Shellen Molseed, who won the Australian Championships 1 year ago, and Alison Jackson, the Kiwi. She'll be wearing number 2 if we can pick her out. We'll spot her out to you. She's been very good already this summer.
Yeah, she'll definitely be the protected rider there for the team Tipco, with Kim Palmer as the director as well. They'll be very hyped up for a stage win today, but we have a few sprinters in there, and it looks like it will come down to a sprint, Matt. The big question will be if Ruth Winder can finish within the same time as the winner to set the team up for stronger position going into tomorrow's stage. But she's done a pretty good job. Looks like she's getting a bit of a second wind here, as we said, that might go out a little bit. The peloton feel like they have this in control.
I think if or when she does get caught, Ruth Winder's got the experience and she's got the horsepower that she'll be able to stay in the peloton. She won't get dropped.
Yeah, I think that's their idea, and they'll be happy with today if they can achieve that. If she can stay away, great, but the odds are against her at the moment. The peloton looking quite relaxed, and when they turn the screws and put the hammer down.
Number 76, that's Holly Harris from the Specialised Women's Racing team. She's been caught at the back, and as soon as there's a lull in the pace, smartly moving around the outside.
Absolutely. That's what we were talking about with Sarah Gigante, trying to willow with our power here to move up to the front where it's a little bit easier, and it gives you that sliding room as well. Even if you are a bit nervous and riders are coming around the outside, at least you don't have that yo-yo effect on and off the back. So, you know, a lot of riders will be gaining a lot of experience just being in a peloton this size. I think for some of the Australians with less experience and around big riders and watching where they position themselves in the peloton, it still looks like a pretty decent gap, doesn't it? But as we've said, the peloton haven't really put the hammer down yet.
And there's also that point where the peloton make the decision that they've got this under control. So we don't need to close it down just as yet, because if they do so, that just encourages somebody else to attack.
And it looked like coming in the lap after that last sprint, that's what they decided. Yeah, we've got this under control now. We brought it back that quick, that fast, that we can just let this sit out there and wait till the last couple of laps to really try and bring us back.
And it looks like a sense of calm has come over the peloton. They've bunched up a little bit more down towards the back. By comparison to 2 laps earlier, it was strung out in single file, and there were some gaps starting to appear. Just inside 25 kilometres remaining. In fact, just inside 24 kilometres still to go. And Ruth Winder out in front with the big task ahead of her to try and hold off this charging field. Trek Segafredo got off to a really good start when they released the kit.
Yeah, really good.
It's a good-looking kit, huh? It's better looking than the men's kit.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. They've got, you know, the matching bikes and everything. They look fabulous. So I think it's up there with the Canyon Shran team that's been leading the way in the appearance for the women's teams. They've got a beautiful kit, and now Trek Segafredo as well.
It's always one of the big discussion points at the start of any season on the release of the new kits, and do we like the changes they've made at Movistar? Well, the one thing that always stays consistent is Astana. That hasn't changed since it's in existence.
Yeah, it's always exciting for any rider to get their new kit and to know what the design's going to be in the colours. And interestingly, you sit down with a rider to negotiate a contract, and it will be actually a question in the conversation on what colour will the kit be. Do we have a design yet? So women quite conscious about how they're going to look on the bike as well.
So are the men.
Yep, I
Rest
believe
assured,
that.
so are the men. Number 53, down towards the back here. This is Ruby Roseman Gannon. She is a good sprinter, and she's been caught at the back, and straight away, Rochelle, she's showing a lot of track craft moving around the outside again.
Yeah, interestingly, no teammates there. That usually you'd have one rider stay with you in case you do get caught down the back, having a bit of a relaxed moment, that when you want to get to the front, you can just ask a teammate to go up the outside, take you around. But that's what the national team are here to learn at this race. They've got a great director in Donna Ray-Zielinski, guiding them and giving them all the experience that they can take from this event.
44 seconds the advantage for Ruth Winder with 22.7 kilometres remaining. She knows exactly what is required. She's accustomed to the circuit now. Can't complain about the road surface. And this is the one day of the year that you would be stunned to see any punches. It's the day of the year where the mechanics might get a chance actually to relax and enjoy the race.
Very true, or have a sleep in the back of the car. That's what they quite often do on long stage races. But today they will be quite relaxed. Great surface. We won't expect many punches. I don't think we've seen any just yet.
SRAM neutral surface. You can see the motorbike off to the side. It was a car in there for a while, but now that the gap is inside 1 minute, the car has been taken out of that gap, and it's now the motorbike neutral service for Ruth Winder. Second overall in the Tour of Belgium 2 years ago. She's been a 5th place finisher in the Tour of California. She's also been a stage winner at the Giro d'Italia, so she has got plenty of results on the board already at just 25 years of age. This is Williams on the front for the Mitchelton Scott team. The blue shoes a little bit further back. In around about 3rd or 4th position, Amanda Spratt. She'll be looking forward to the climbs on tomorrow's stage. And the gap now down to 45 seconds, so it's stabilised in the last lap.
Well, the peloton will be very, very confident that they can bring this back quite easily. So they actually don't want to bring it back now until possibly even on the last lap. And I think Ruth Winder there is getting some information that the peloton's getting closer, but she knows she still has to keep pushing on the pedals. Even though she's probably convinced, yes, it's going to come back together, and they do have one of the fastest sprinters, or two of the fastest sprinters in their team, so she's not concerned about that. It's just about the process of having to keep pressure on the other teams to do the chase.
It's one of the first times we've seen Ruth Winder get out of the saddle. The glutes are starting to tighten up. She's been riding an individual time trial for the last 20 plus, 30 plus kilometres. Still holding on to that 50-second margin. But the seeds of doubt must be firmly planted in her mind about the chances of this making it through to the finish.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that she knows this is going to come back down. She will be able to see them passing there on the other side of the circuit as well, but at the same time, it's her job to just keep pushing for as long as she possibly can. With 20.9 kilometres to go, the peloton know they can bring this back. It's destined for a sprint. And when it comes down to a sprint for Mitchelton Scott, you've got Gracie Elvin in there. For LA Cipollini, it's Chloe Hosking. And for the Trek Segafredo team, Lotte Lepisto from Finland. She'll have Loretta Hansen leading her out, which is a handy lead out to have, which could make all the difference.
That's a really good lead out.
Really good. So I think that's, you know, Chloe Hosking probably the fastest on paper, got the most wins. Lotte Lepisto has that advantage of having Loretta Hansen lead her out, so it'll be interesting when it comes to the sprint, whether Chloe Hosking wants to take the wheel of Lotte Lepisto.
In the intermediate sprint, we saw Gracie Elvin collect second place in that intermediate sprint, but the others that you mentioned, Lepisto and Hosking, they didn't challenge. Hosking at least participated in the first sprint. Lepisto didn't touch either of the sprints. Get the impression she's really saving herself and waiting for the stage finish. And we know that she's got really good form. I think she's the favourite ever so slightly.
Yeah, I think given that she does have that strong team, and also having this teammate of hers, Ruth Winder, out there all day, gives you that extra motivation to want to pull off the result at the end of the day. So I think for Lotte Lepisto, she is probably in performance the favourite for today, but the hunger that Chloe Hosking has is incredible. I mean, she had a misfortunate mechanical right in a really bad place trying to defend the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, and that's, you know, the reaction and the fire in the belly to that. She really wants to win today, and when she gets hungry, she can do anything. So Chloe Hosking and Lotte Lepisto will be the ones to watch, and it'll be interesting to see what Mitchelton Scott do, because they might fire some riders off towards the end as well, looking for a stage win.
I think it's going to be hard for Gracie Elvin to beat those two women in a pure sprint finish. So we could expect in the last few laps, as we're getting down towards the business end, roughly 20 kilometres still to go, it could be a case where we see someone from Mitchelton Scott, perhaps Grace Brown, tries to go long range. An update there from SRAM Neutral Service, also providing a little bit of feedback as to what's happening back in the peloton and how big the gap is. Ruth, it's still at roughly 45 seconds, with the Mitchelton Scott team doing most of the chasing. Michelle, for Mitchelton Scott, given that we've spoken about those other two, Chloe Hosking of LA Cipollini, and, well, Lepisto, her team's not going to chase because they have a rider in the breakaway. Mitchelton Scott, should they maybe play a little bit of the game of cat and mouse? Okay, you've got a stronger sprinter, why don't you chase? Your turn, LA Cipollini.
Well, they could do that, but the thing is they have the strength in numbers, and if they take that risk, and they, I mean, rightly so, they should expect other teams with sprinters to do some chasing, but LA Cipollini don't have a team as strong as they do, so it could backfire, and I don't think they want to take that risk. That's exactly what could happen if they were relying on another team to chase.
So they have too much respect for Ruth Winder to take that risk of forcing others to chase it. Maybe if it was a lesser light that was out the front?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, they can't afford for Ruth Winder to stay away today because they know she can climb quite well and has a really good chance of winning the tour overall. So this is more about the overall tour for Mitchelton Scott. They need to chase this down and have everyone on the same time going into tomorrow's stage.
And this is no easy catch. By virtue of the fact that she's out there on her own, and she has been for a long time, the mathematics of cycling say that she'll be reeled back in, maybe with a lap to go, perhaps a little bit more than that. But Mitchelton Scott will need to spend a fair few pickies to get the job done, because Ruth Winder, there's no waiting around.
Well, that's right, and that's why Ruth Winder needs to keep pushing on, even though she's likely to get caught and she knows that. It's, you know, Mitchelton Scott have had Jessica Allen on the front for several laps, so they've already used a lot of energy from Jessica Allen. They now have Georgia Williams of New Zealand doing the majority of the work, so the point of having Ruth Winder from Trek Segafredo out there in front is actually working. It's just putting a little bit of pressure on the Mitchelton Scott riders to use a bit of energy in the lead up to the sprint, but more so in the lead up to tomorrow's stage.
I just noticed number 53, Ruby Roseman Gannon from Quartermenta Real Estate, stuck down towards the back once again. On the front, at number 14, that's Jessica Allen. Just behind her, 13, that's Georgia Williams. Next in line was Grace Brown. She had a nasty fallout training grouse, Grace Brown, just around about 1 week ago, where she'd won a stage at the Santos Tour Down Under, and the boyfriend wasn't too happy with the victory salute and suggested, let's go out training, you can practice the victory salute and I'll record it. She practiced the victory salute and she crashed. It was captured by the boyfriend and he shared it online. It's gone viral that she crashed whilst practicing victory celebrations. But Grace, being Grace, has taken it with great grace, all in her stride, and she sees the funny side of it. Left-hand side of the screen now, though, Rochelle, you can see the white colours of the Quartermenta Real Estate team. They are getting themselves organised. They're a team that come together just for one or two races throughout the summer, so it's difficult for them to have the cohesion of a Mitchelton Scott, but they're doing well.
Absolutely, they're doing a fantastic job, and I'm sure the director, Donna Ray-Zielinski, will be very proud of them getting themselves together here. Even if nothing comes of this, they've really got themselves together and moving up to the front and looking after their sprinter and giving an opportunity to be in there at the finish. So back with Ruth Winder from Trek Segafredo, only 37 seconds now, and we're seeing her look a little bit more regularly now under the shoulder. So that shows some signs of fatigue, and she's actually probably looking forward to the moment that she gets caught, but she knows she has to keep pushing on.
Indeed she does. And the Trek Segafredo team, they've also got the Bontrager kit on as well, which is owned by the same company. The Bontrager wheels, shoes and a helmet. And that look around for a psychological break as well. She'll enjoy just even for a couple of seconds to have a conversation with the guys on the SRAM neutral service motorbike. Riding that motorbike, incidentally, is Robert Eva, who's won countless Australian championships on the dirt as a mountain biker in both cross-country and downhill. And he spends a lot of time on the motorbike. And he was a motorbike rider before he transferred to mountain biking. Still Williams and Allen doing the chasing for Mitchelton Scott at the front end of the main field. Back of the peloton, number 4, that's Shannon Molseed. Not often do we see Shannon caught out down at the back of the peloton. And normally for a Australian road champion, a former Australian road champion, you see the green and gold bands around the sleeves, the collar, and occasionally around the bottom of the necks. For her, with the nature of their jersey, it's already got a fluoro gold band around it, so it doesn't stand out quite so much. So they've tried something different, and they've gone with a band of Australian flags around the sleeve, the collar, and also the necks.
I think it looks quite smart actually, and Shannon Molseed has now quite a bit of experience racing in a big peloton and in Europe, so I think she was quite relaxed before the start about today's stage. She wants to test herself and see how she can go tomorrow, but just wants to get through today safely.
It's an interesting challenge for Shannon Molseed. This year her form throughout the summer months hasn't been as good as what it was 12 months ago, but last year she got off to a perfect start. She won the national title, biggest result of her career. And then she couldn't quite replicate that when she went to Europe and raced in the US. This year, she's taken a much slower approach to the season, hoping that come Europe, come America, that's when she's at her best.
Yeah, I think
it's a risk,
you're right,
but
Matt.
It's the right risk.
Yeah, I think she's just got a little bit more relaxed approach with lower expectations out here this summer and some bigger goals during the season over in America and Europe. And that kind of happens a lot too when you have responsibilities with the team and they want you to focus on certain parts of the season. You don't want to let your team down as much as you want to be in form in Australia. For some teams it's not so important for the results. So obviously she's listened to the needs of the team and targeting a little bit later in the season.
At number 82, sitting at the back of the peloton, that's Veronika Lebedev. I haven't seen a lot of her up until this year, and what I've seen throughout the summer has been impressive. I think that throughout 2019 she'll have a big impact on the National Road Series, and then maybe 2020 she'll be ready for an international stint. But there's a lot to like about the way Veronika Lebedev has been conducting herself throughout January. Still Ruth Winder holding on to an advantage of just on the 40-second mark. A lot of cookies being spent by Mitchelton Scott today. That could expose them a little tomorrow. You've used the term a few times already, strength in numbers. For the Trek Segafredo team, they're doing a good job of reducing those numbers for the all-important stage tomorrow to Churchill.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the intention of Trek Segafredo, and a great move, and I'm sure that in hindsight Mitchelton Scott would not have liked to let this one go because it has put them under pressure today. They know they can't rely on other teams because they have the strongest team here and they need to bring this back, so they've had to do all of the work. We saw for a moment Eri Ionomini of LA Cipollini, the team of Chloe Hosking, was up there helping them, but not for so long. So it really has been Mitchelton Scott that's felt the pressure to bring this back.
Another rider to watch, number 71 from the Specialised Women's Racing Team. That's Jamie Gunning. She's a solid climber, really good climber, but can ride position and can handle the criteriums as well for someone who's so lightly built. She was the second of the under-23s at the National Road Championships this year. She had a top 10 finish outright. And this is a race tomorrow where I'll be surprised if we don't see Jamie Gunning at the front at the business end of the race.
We just had another shot there of the Quartermantha national team, and they are doing really well as a team. Got themselves together, moved up to the front, As we enter into the business part of this bike race, it's still Ruth Winder of Trek Segafredo. She's been out there for a very, very long time. She knows that she's going to be caught, but she's going to push as long as she possibly can.
32 seconds is the latest time check for Ruth Winder. Well, she doesn't do table service. If they want to feed, they have to come to the counter and order for themselves, because she is making life tough for the others to reel her back in. And if anything, she's showing the impressions of somebody that's upped the ante ever so slightly in the previous lap.
Yeah, the body language says that she's the closer she gets to the finish, the more interested she is in trying to make this a success, whether that's to stay away or just to make it come down to the wire and put a little bit more pressure in. That's a very experienced bike rider. We know she has an experienced director in Ina Yoko Teutenberg. Has she maybe saved something for the last couple of laps?
I'd be surprised if she hasn't, with that instruction back in the team car. Still holding on to a 30-second advantage. Down to the final few laps for Ruth Winder. I'd like to get the data off her in terms of the consistency of the wattage output around this course. Still Jessica Allen at the front for the Mitchelton Scott team. You see the pink colours with a little hint of green on them. They're the teammates of Barbara Dieta, the B-Pink team. They were super aggressive on the weekend with multiple riders going in breakaways, but they have a potential winner today in a sprint finish. As Jessica Allen leads them through, 32 seconds is the advantage for Ruth Winder.
The rider we've not spoken too much about, the Italian Raquel Barbieri. She'll have a very good chance of being on the podium in a bunch sprint here today.
Were you surprised by her move on the weekend at the Deakin University Cadel Evans Garrison Road race? They went for the first 10-minute sprint Barwon Heads. She was second then at that sprint behind Chloe Hosking. And in her bid to win the second sprint into Torquay, she attacked with 12 kilometres to go. Yeah,
very interesting move, Matt. A bold one for a rider like Barbieri. She comes from a track background. As we mentioned before, she has won a world championship in the scratch race. And to make a move like that, I mean, on the track, it's, you know, you might do it 3 or 4 laps out, but 12 kilometres, it's a long way. So a bold move, but obviously she's out here just to get training as well and to get stronger.
But when she attacked, I had to double, triple check that it was her. Yeah. It looked like her. The numbers said it was her, but I still thought it was an odd move. But as a 21-year-old, you'd much rather have the problem of trying to hold someone back than push them forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we spoke about before, trying to have a go and do something that's out of your comfort zone that she didn't need to do, but to try it, to get the sensations and feeling of having a go. And sometimes, you know, 1 in 100 times that may have worked, but I think it could have been maybe from their director an instruction to have a go at that, and it might have been with another motive to just get that feeling of being out there and having to push a high power for a longer period of time. So for a rider like Barbieri, she will be preparing for the Track World Championships as well, so it could have had a different motive and ambition with that move.
Well, the ambition for Ruth Winder is pretty clear. Make life tough for Mitchelton Scott and hold on to the glimmer of hope that she's got enough in the tank to hold them off with a 30-second advantage inside the last couple of laps around Phillip Island, that she could defy the odds, break the rules of logic in professional cycling and win solo. It happened last year with Brodie Chapman, and not only did she hold off the peloton, she held off the world time trial champion who was chasing. It can be done. And you can see Bass Strait off in the distance. Normally this part of the course, Rochelle, is windswept. Today, the weather conditions are idyllic for cyclo-touring, but for a bike race, secretly, I don't know about you, but I was hoping for a little bit more wind.
Well, yeah, I guess sitting behind the screens and watching the race here from the sidelines, I would have liked to see a little bit more wind too, but obviously...
The comfortable side of the fence.
The comfortable side of the fence. But yeah, and I think a lot of these European riders that are here too wouldn't mind that, because they like, you know, when there's some challenges with the weather and some strong winds and things like that. But for those riders from Australia, just gaining experience here, it's probably a good thing. They've got to, just navigating the peloton as a challenge without any of, rain or wind or things like that. So I think for Ruth Winder, she wouldn't appreciate wind at this point of the race.
The only wind she'd like now is a tailwind. Unfortunately, she's on a circuit, so where there's a tailwind, there's a corresponding headwind. A time check just flicked back up on the computer screen then, indicating that the gap now is back out to 47 seconds.
Well, interesting if it has. That just means that Mitchelton are feeling, they've got the whole team there, so they are feeling quite relaxed, and they haven't really put the hammer down yet. You can see the peloton's quite bunched up, so even though they're lined out at the front, the pace is not extremely high, so it might be that Ruth Winder is actually moving faster than the peloton.
And we saw the appearance just then, for the first time up at the front of the peloton, 4 or 5 of the riders from TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. That's the team of Brodie Chapman, last year's winner. She knows that it can be done off the front. She did it 1 year ago. If Ruth Winder was to survive and collect this victory, it may not be quite the biggest on her CV, but it could be one of the most significant from a performance perspective.
Well, you've got to understand too, these riders have come out here to race in Australia. So this race means so much. They've had that long travel out here to be in Australia. This is their last opportunity out here. They really want to race the Herald Sun Tour. They're not here just for training. They've lined up, put a number on their back. So they want to get back on that plane knowing that they've got everything they possibly could. And that could be just the intensity. It could be experiences like this, having a go at a long breakaway and, where's my power at? How long can I hold it? Things like that. So the Europeans out here are really, really interested in trying to win this race. They're not just going to put around. And Ruth Winder has found a little bit of energy here. It looks like she's really doing her best to stay away.
The bad news for Ruth Winder is that in the peloton we're seeing a lot of other teams now coming towards the front and fighting for position. And you're seeing that washing machine effect. The old cliche in professional cycling is Lucy Kennedy is caught down towards the back. She's a rider who likes the climbs, but not so much these sorts of conditions. The old cliche, Rochelle, if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. And now we do see new colours on the front. It is the TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank team that have taken control of the peloton. They're concerned about Ruth Winder. Her biggest disadvantage today, Ruth Winder, is that the peloton has so much respect for her.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this is an absolute blessing for Mitchelton Scott. They get to have a little bit of a rest and regroup themselves. They've been on the front for a long time, lined out, but now with the other teams coming into play, and now Ruth Winder will be starting to, we might see her come off the pedal soon. She'll push for as long as she can, but the bunch is moving really fast now with those other teams moving to the front.
2 laps remaining. It's the TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank team on the front, the team of the defending champion, Brodie Chapman, who looks comfortable in the position of wearing number 1. The white colours off to the left-hand side of the screen. That's the team of the Quartermental Real Estate squad. They're protecting Emily Roper. She was the one who was second in line. Roper, I'm convinced, cannot win today, but she can win overall with what's to come on tomorrow's stage. So they're thinking long-term.
But like we said, Matt, if this was to be caught with more than a lap to go, we might see some counter-attacks, and especially now that some other teams have taken on the work, it gives the other teams time to rest and regroup and maybe think about having an attack coming into the finish.
Less than 30 seconds now, the advantage for Ruth Winder, with around about 9 kilometres still to race. 2 laps of the Phillip Island Moto circuit. The body language is still positive. There's no hint of surrender from Ruth Winder.
She looks very solid and strong on the bike, that's for sure. As we said, she'll be looking at data there on the handlebars, but very, very solid ride. A lot of riders would be starting to lose their composure, but super strong ride from Ruth Winder.
And when she won a stage last year of the Women's Giro d'Italia, she did it with a bold breakaway. She was in a small group off the front. She attacked her breakaway companions, and she won by 1 second ahead of her now teammate Taylor Wiles. That was a stage where she managed to average 39 kilometres per hour for 3 hours. That's a pretty solid day's racing. Seven and a half kilometres remaining. Stage 1 of the Lexus of Blackburn Women's Herald Sun Tour. Ruth Winder has been off the front on her own for a long time, but she's about to get plenty of company. No need for the stopwatch now, Rochelle. They are breathing literally down her neck.
Yeah, I'm sure the peloton now are not even considering the position of Ruth Winder out in front there, because they'll start getting their trains together. They'll know that it'll just naturally come back now with all the teams moving to the front and trying to get into position. So there we see it. This is pretty much the catch. We'll see Ruth Winder turn around, just take some pressure off the pedals.
She is going to be caught. To survive, she needs to sit up, take a deep breath, and then find herself a spot somewhere near the front of the peloton to stay out of the wind. And in fact, she should be a little bit greedy and go to the other side of the road, so when she does get caught, she's got more protection.
Yeah, I would have expected that she would have sat up and taken a bit of a breather, but she's probably quite confident that she can slip into the peloton here and hold on to the finish, so she can finish on the same time. She's got a couple of seconds time bonuses in the back pocket going into tomorrow's stage if she can get to the finish here.
And she's made that move. She's gone to the other side of the road with the wind coming from the right. That will give her just a little bit more shelter. That's a good move by Ruth Winder.
Well, the pace is really on now in the peloton. You can see a great job there from the Quartermenta national team. They're all together there at the front, and it's Tipco, so no signs of the Trek Segafredo train for Lotte Lepisto, and Ale Cipollini's train for Chloe Hosking. They're the riders, big sprinters that we'll be watching.
The Trek Segafredo team, they're caught on the right-hand side of the screen as we look at the left-hand side of the road for them, but they're in a fair bit of traffic. Although there's no need to panic, there's still a fair way to go. There's been a fall in the middle of the peloton, a little bit of a touch of the wheels. Most have managed to avoid it. A couple extras have gone over the top, but it looks as if all the favourites have managed to stay out of trouble. One rider, though, that we do know that was caught a little bit further back down the peloton not too long ago was Lucy Kennedy.
Yeah, let's hope Lucy got herself out of trouble there, because she'll definitely be wanting to have a good race tomorrow, and she was one of the favourites for this race win, the overall Herald Sun Tour.
And there's the scrambling behind to try and get back in contact. But you can see the black and yellow colours of the Mitchelton Scott team. They've got plenty of their riders up towards the front. And Amanda Spratt is certainly there on the right-hand side of the screen with the blue shoes, so she's managed to avoid the fall. Just behind Amanda Spratt, you can see the white and blue colours of Trek Segafredo. Chloe Hosking, she's still in this group. The white colours with the green and gold bands from the national team, the Quartermenta Real Estate squad. Jessica Pratt doing a brilliant job for that team. This is further back. And number 34, caught behind the fall, that's Van Twisk. Abigail Van Twisk, also caught behind, not surprisingly, was Sarah Gigante. She spent a lot of time at the back, and this is the price you pay.
Yeah, so we can see there the rider from Trek Segafredo. That just means there's one less in their lead out, but they've got a pretty strong lead out. But Sarah Gigante, as we've seen a few times during this race, having to fight very hard to get back on.
Well, the good news for Trek Segafredo is that Abigail Van Twisk was one of the least crucial riders for the lead-out train. She's the youngest rider on that team as well. And even trying to bridge the gap on the motorbike, it's taken a little while. It shows how tough it is. Tipco at the front. Alison Jackson, the Kiwi from that team, they really, and rightly so, Rochelle, they believe she can win.
Yeah, it's going to be a fast and furious sprint. Like we said, will there be any attacks coming into the finish? But Team Tipco may have come to the front just a little bit too early. You can see Trek Segafredo very relaxed, having a chat there, all the team together.
And left-hand side of the screen with the yellow helmet, the tall, skinny figure, Lucy Kennedy. She was in front of the fall, so one of the pre-race favourites is safe. One lap remaining. Tipco on the front. Trek Segafredo for Lotte Lepisto. Ale Cipollini for Chloe Hosking. Some of the riders caught behind the fall and trying to close down the gap. Amongst them, the Australian road champion, Sarah Gigante. Gracie Elvin, you would suspect, will be the sprinter for the Mitchelton Scott team, after having picked up points in the first and the second intermediate sprint. Now LA Cipollini coming to the front, but it's still very early.
Yeah, you can see Chloe Hosking there. She is quite relaxed, but only 2 teammates in front of her. Another one coming up on the right of the screen, just trying to get there to help out with this train.
Ruth Winder, having spent the whole day in the breakaway, being caught around about 5 minutes ago, not too far away from hearing the bell lap. But for her, the team has taken advantage of that. They've been sitting on the wheels and they can save themselves for the big lead out. And still, Rochelle, they're showing their composure and their experience individually, coming together brilliant collectively. They're still waiting.
Yeah, they're waiting and they're actually having a bit of a discussion at the moment, so they are quite relaxed, and we're very close inside the final lap now. So Trek Segafredo, they have a lot of experience, not actually riding together, but within that team, the leaders and the knowledge that they have of each other, having competed against each other, is what is really going to play into their strengths today. So Trek Segafredo really relaxed there with Lotte Lepisto and Loretta Hansen.
They're the white and blue colours on the left-hand side of the screen. They've got Lepisto in the right spots. They're still waiting to pounce at the fronts. But now, swooping around the outside, once again, it's the black and yellow colours of Mitchelton Scott. They've been working all day, Rochelle. Now's the time to get it done.
Well, we've seen them do a lot of work, and they've got Gracie Elvin, but as we said, maybe not the fastest all-out sprinter here. So will they go on the attack, or are they just thinking about tomorrow? Keep themselves out of trouble, because they've got Amanda Spratt and Lucy Kennedy and Grace Brown that can all do very well on tomorrow's circuit. But LA Cipollini moving up now with Chloe Hosking.
And this is a good ride by number 56. Gigante has rejoined. She'll have spent a lot of energy today, but she still might lose a little bit of time, because all that chasing, she's starting to pay the price. As good as she is physically, you can't ride in the wind all day whilst the others are sitting wheels.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. That ride she had to win the national championship was a really, really impressive ride, and to see what she's done today, riding most of the race off the back and having to chase back on, she has demonstrated pure strength. When she gets a little bit more experience of riding inside the peloton, watch out for Sarah Gigante.
It's frightening, isn't it, to think of how much upside there is without getting any better physically, and she's still only 18, and she's not going to get any slower. She's only going to get stronger. Kennedy it is now who's coming to the front doing the job for Mitchelton Scotts.
Yeah, this is impressive from Kennedy. She's thinking all about tomorrow for herself, but keeping her teammates out of trouble here, really trying to pick up the speed. Super strong ride by Lucy Kennedy.
And the white and blue colours, they've been washed away a little bit. Trek Segafredo, they've been waiting patiently. Now they're starting to come forward. The check across the shoulder. Taylor Wiles doing her job. Lisa Longo Borghini won't want to spend too much in the lead out today, because she's their best climber for tomorrow. And Abigail Van Twisk has rejoined the group from that team. Shoulder to shoulder as they're rubbing for position at the front just inside the last few kilometres. The Japanese national champion, Yonamini, is on the front, trying to lead out the LA Cipollini squad for Chloe Hosking.
Well, this is full power now. You can see Trek Segafredo just launched off the front and attack and swung off. So that was a little bit too much power, lost the train. But LA Cipollini's team now pulling the pace on the front. So some of the trains a little bit all over the place, but all the favourites are in there.
LA Cipollini with the bright colours. They've done a little bit of the pacemaking early. The last few laps they've sat back and they've waited. They've waited for the moments, and the moment is now for Chloe Hosking. It is a quick sprint. She's had a trial run at the first intermediate sprints. She got the win there ahead of Barbieri. And the quarter meant the real estate team. That's Emily Roper who's moved up into second position.
It looks like she could be on the wheel of Loretta Hansen, the Australian that was leading out the other rider in white, which is the Finnish champion Lotte Lepisto. So this is a bit unfortunate for Loretta Hansen that she doesn't have a sprinter on her wheel.
But there's also a split, Rochelle, and that could be all important for the general classification. Amanda Spratt has made that first group. She sits at the rear. She's a former junior world champion on the track. She knows how to get into the right position.
Well, that's Trek Segafredo's Loretta Hanson now just swinging off. But as you say, Matt, this is good for the Mitchelton Scott team because they've got a few riders in there with a time gap.
This is a tiny little group that's come forward. Sorry about the slight lack of stability on the cameras. They line up now for the finish after 2.5 hours of racing. Waiting to make her move. It is Chloe Hosking. She opens up. Gracie Alvin tries to challenge. Lepisto in white, but it's Hosking through the middle like she's on a motorbike. Hosking gets the win. Lepisto, Barbiera for the minor placings. No surprises with the winner though.
Yeah, she was on a mission today. You could see so relaxed in the bunch, and her team really got it together in the final couple of kilometres. Trek Segafredo a little bit too edgy, I think, in the sprint. They didn't quite keep their train together, but a very close sprint between Lotte Lepisto and Raquel Barbieri for second and third places. But fantastic ride from Chloe Hosking. Great team effort from LA Cipollini.
What I'm looking forward to seeing is whether there was any time gap, because in that front group, Emily Roper was there, so too was Amanda Spratt, Alison Jackson for the Tipco team. A lot of the other favourites that we speak about as potential contenders to win this race were in the next group. Was it enough to cause a 2 or 3 second time gap?
Well, I hope they do time gaps, Matt. I mean, it was pretty close in the end, but that big effort, I think it was from Trek Segafredo that actually split the peloton. That front group that were able to stay there, those riders do deserve a couple of seconds if there was daylight between themselves and the peloton.
And a brilliant performance by LA Cipollini. As you made reference, they didn't have the strongest lead-out team. Given the support that Lepisto had, I thought that might have had her just a slight favourite ahead of Chloe Hosking, but Chloe Hosking should never ever be underestimated.
A very well-drilled team there with a lot of cohesion. Now, I said that before the race, that they've got a lot of confidence in Chloe this summer because she's come into the season fit. She's got a few wins under her belt already, so and a very big one today. She'll be super happy with that.
Chloe Hosking going out the winner of the opening stage. She also won the first intermediate sprint. Those time bonuses will put her into the overall race lead with one stage to come. That's a stage of a little over 90 kilometres tomorrow with plenty of climbs in and around Churchill. Later on today, though, kicking off at 2:30, we'll join the men for the opening stage of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. On behalf of myself, Matthew Keenan, Rochelle Gilmore and the rest of the team, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you can come back later for the men's race.